It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Yo, what is up, everybody? Hopefully you guys are doing well. I'm looking to see... Oh, no, okay. So nobody got the movie. So in the beginning of this stream, right when I launched it, I was playing a movie in the background. And if the first person to send me an email before the end of the stream, okay, the first person to send me an email before the end of the stream that gets the correct answer, I'll send them a beanie. But you got to give me the right answer. So far I've had two people guess, and they both guessed Weekend at Bernie's, and it was not Weekend at Bernie's. It's funny that two people guessed that, but no, that was not the movie that I had playing in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and unpin the thing in the top real quick. Let me remove that. And hopefully you guys are doing well. I'm doing okay over here. It's definitely slowing down as far as work goes. We're getting like kind of hitting a wall. Oh, snap. Mark Miller got it right. It was Valley Girl. That's right, Mark. You got it. So I was playing Valley Girl in the background. Mark Miller was the first person to send me an email. So, Mark, do me a favor. Send me an email with what type of beanie you want. Cuffed, meaning that it has the little flap thing on it, or do you want non-cuffed that's just a straight beanie? Send me an email in the same thing that you sent right now with your address and what kind of beanie you want, and I'll get it sent out to you. So yeah, you were correct, Mark Miller. It was Valley Girl playing in the background. And so I showed a couple scenes with Nicolas Cage. So all right. So yeah, we're slowing down a little bit over here. It's interesting though, because I was talking to someone recently. I don't remember who. I don't know if it was one of my friends or what, but we're slowing down a little bit. But it's weird because it's kind of my own fault. Like, I don't want to take on new customers because we just get so busy and inundated with our existing customers. But the problem is that we're hitting a wall and they're all getting really slow. Earnings weren't as good for one of them, and they cut spending down, and it's just like a mess. So it's kind of interesting how we're slowing down right now. But honestly, this is my favorite time of year, the time of the year when we can just like chill out and not be so stressed all the time. You know, because like I just get so busy sometimes, and I just enjoy being able to take a couple days off or get off early. Like today, I worked half a day. I went and ran a walk-in freezer service call, then I came home, and I was like, man, I like that. I really dig that. And some of my guys like it. We try to keep them all busy as much as possible. I mean, we have work. It's just we're not all getting 50 hours a week right now. But it's just an interesting dilemma to have. But again, most of it's my fault. Like, I don't pursue new customers because I'm kind of lazy. And I just don't like how crazy it gets when we do get busy. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. Again, call me a bad business owner, whatever you want to do. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I see a lot of familiar faces in the chat right now. I will address a question that I had. Shoot, I already lost it. Sorry, your screen name, Crash for Taz Gaming. You had asked if I have somewhere that you can send something. Yeah, I do have a P.O. box. It's listed in the bottom of every one of my YouTube videos. It'll also be listed in the show notes of this live stream is my P.O. box information. So if there's something you're wanting to send, you feel free. The P.O. box is there. So let me see. For some reason, this is kind of lagging right now. My chat is not moving very fast. Huh. Wonder what the dealio with that is. But oh well. Got a couple things I want to cover as usual, and then we'll get to some of your guys' questions too. So let me hit refresh on this because my chat is frozen for some reason. So give it a second. It's coming up right now, and then I'm sure it'll be moving around. There we go. Now it's moving around to where I can see it. So hopefully you guys are doing well where you're at. Looking at the chat right now, seeing what I'm missing. Thoughts on Stirling engines for cooling? I don't have any thoughts on that one, Glitter Fart. That's an interesting screen name. How's it going? Oh yeah, everybody. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. I'm just looking through, seeing what kind of stuff I'm missing in the chat. Let's see. JCC 3279 asks how my crazy lab is doing, and then you said that you have 4 dogs, 2 labs, and 2 beagles. So yeah, for those that don't know, I got a new puppy. We're in full-fledged puppy stage right now. I think he is 3 months old now or something. I don't know. Whatever. It's been crazy. A lot of sleepless nights is what it is because we cage train him, right? So he sleeps in his cage in our bedroom, but then we have to take him out like 3 times a night. It's like having an infant again, you know? And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't even, half the time I get up, it's like muscle memory, getting out of bed and walking him to the place where we take him to the bathroom. Actually, I walk him through my office out. I have a slider right here. And I walk him out into a little area I have on the other side of this slider, and that's kind of like the area we've been taking him to the bathroom, trying to, train him and stuff. And man, what a trip! What a trip having a puppy is again. I totally forgot how much work it is. Let's see. What part of a system is most likely to have vibration and pressure temperature dependent leak hole? So what part of a system is most likely to have a vibration, pressure, temperature dependent leak hole? I don't really know if I understand that question, but if I was to say what part of the system has vibration issues, I would say at the compressor. The refrigeration lines coming in and out of the compressor, depending on if it's an old semi-hermetic, we would add vibration eliminators to the discharge and the suction line. That's the most common places that I'm going to see vibrations, possibly in the condensing unit or rack or something like that because of a fan motor vibration. But really, there shouldn't be massive vibrations causing shaking of refrigeration lines. Something's usually going on. Like a vibration eliminator on a compressor. I mean, that's really there for worst case scenarios. In normal operation, it shouldn't be shaking all crazy. There might be some damage inside of it. Something's out of balance or something like that. Let's see. I'm looking through the chat. How was my Halloween? Halloween was fine. I got kids. We just hung out, had some friends come over, barbecued out in front of the house and set up chairs and stuff. And the trick-or-treaters came and my kids went trick-or-treating. And my kids are getting a little bit old for it, but they still did it and they still had fun. So it's cool. It was nice. It was a nice evening. Where's my dog? I'm sure my wife will come and bring him in. I asked her to bring him in here in a little while. JJMN asked, where's my dog? And he says caps just to get attention. I actually prefer caps lock. If you guys have things that you want to get to my attention, the best thing to do is caps lock. So that way I see it. Questions, comments, or things you want me to address, make sure you put them in caps lock. That way I try to see them that way. I don't always see them, but if I miss anything, feel free to send me an email at hvacrvideos@gmail.com. So let's see what else. I already answered that one. All right, cool. Yeah, if you guys haven't already, please smash the thumbs up button. It definitely helps out the stream, okay? Just helping YouTube to realize that I'm here. They play with the algorithm all the time, so it really does help out. Yeah, referring to rub out points, I would say really places, you know, where lines are not properly supported as close as possible to the condensing unit. That's going to be the most common places for rub out points because those are the most apt to have vibration. It's always possible in the evaporator if you have an out of balance fan blade or something like that, the evaporator might be vibrating. But if your system's set up properly, whether it be refrigeration or air conditioning, it's supported in multiple places in vibration eliminators, rubber clamps, different things like that. You have things that kind of absorb vibration for you. Kangaroo God sent you here. Joel says that. Well, right on, man. Kangaroo God's a cool guy. He's in here quite often. So, all right. Am I familiar with Condair steam humidifiers? You're having an issue with the wiring, the humidistat. John Stewart, no, I am not whatsoever familiar with Condair humidifiers. Never even worked on a humidifier. So I'm in the land of no humidity at all here in Southern California. I mean, I imagine that there is some people that have humidifiers, but it's not really a thing that we deal with very much. Plus, I'm on the commercial side. So if I was doing hospital work and stuff like that, I would probably be working with humidifiers, but I don't. So how much work is it to replace the floor in a walk-in like the one this week? It's a lot of extensive work. So in order to replace, I've never done it, but I've seen it done many times. I would sub that out to a general contractor and let him do it. But you have to completely dry the box out, the walls and everything like that. So it's going to be about a probably best case scenario, a 2-week process. Worst case scenario, people might try to do it in a couple days. But in order for it to cure and for everything to be installed properly, you really should shut the entire system down, dry out the box, put heaters inside there, warm up the box to a pretty warm temperature, kind of dry out the moisture, let it stand, clean it up, rip the floor out, set a new floor down, diamond plate the floor, then seal it up. And you need to find the source of what caused the damage to the floor. So when you're dealing with walk-in freezers, that's what he's asking about. Whenever you're defrosting walk-in freezers or drainage issues or they're cleaning walk-in freezers, they never want to get water on the floor, especially if it's a raised floor. Okay, there's 2 different types of walk-ins. You have a raised floor where they put it on just a normal concrete pad, nothing special about the pad, and then they put a 6-inch floor with insulation, usually like a polyurethane insulation or something like that. And then you'll have the surface that you walk on, right? Well, in that situation, you have to be very, very careful not to get water on the floor because it only has so much water resistance. It does have sealants and things on it, but it's only so water resistant. Eventually, if you left enough water on that floor, it would seep down underneath the floors, and then it freezes and lifts up and causes just catastrophic damage to the floor of the box. So it's so important when we're working on walk-in freezers and walk-in coolers that we really pay attention to where the water's going. Even if it's a walk-in cooler on a raised floor, you don't want to get water underneath it. You want to be so careful about that because it just causes problems. All right, I'm just kind of going through the chat right now, seeing what we got in here. Let's see. JMMN says, wants to know if I need a 3-phase contactor for over 240 lines. You see writing on contactors found that say break all lines if over 240 volt. No, Carrier doesn't use 3-phase contactors on package units for most of their modern units. You don't necessarily need a 3-phase contactor. I mean, always pay attention to your local electrical code. But if you have 3-phase, if you disconnect 1 phase, then you're going to do something called single phasing. So then it would only be energized on 2 phases, and that would cause catastrophic compressor damage, right? But if you disconnect 2 phases, right? If you pull 2 phases out of the picture and there's only 1 phase in there, then it's fine. It will be energized, so there's always a leg sitting at that compressor that's hot, but it's not going to hurt anything at all. And then Carrier, what they do, and Train and a couple other manufacturers will use a 2-pole contactor to save money. In the past, I used to think it was like a crankcase heater, but I've been educated on that, and it was not. I had some people reach out to me and kind of talk to me about it, and it absolutely is not. The people that I was talking to about it was Joe Shearer and Eric Melee. Both of them have YouTube channels on YouTube. I don't have the information for them right now, but they're 2 cool dudes. And we were talking about it. No, it is. So Carrier uses a 2-pole contactor simply to save money. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just you have to understand what you're working on is all. Let's see. I don't know what that means. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get on to my my list of things to talk about. So last week, I had 2 videos that I released. The prep table funk video where I rebuilt a condensing unit, and then the walk-in freezer door is all frozen. Both of those. The walk-in freezer door was yesterday. Let me see. Oh, Mark Miller, I didn't realize that. Yeah, you did win last week. So yeah, you're right. I'll give it to you again. You can give it to someone else, bud. I'll send them both to you. That's fine. I just read your email that came through, Mark Miller. So that's cool, man. Yeah, give it to one of your apprentices. That'll be cool. So just let me know. And I already have your address then, Mark Miller. So I'll try to remember. If I forget, don't hesitate to let me know I only sent you one, okay? Because I did just send my wife an email today asking her to send you the one because I haven't sent out the one from last week. So, all right, let me see what else we got going on in here. So it is hot in my office right now. I got a bunch of questions about this on my video that I released yesterday on the walk-in freezer. Why in the heck did they ship out a door that was wood on a walk-in freezer? And many people said that just seems like a nightmare. That seems crazy. And it is, okay? The reason why they use wood is because it's easy to transport. It's easy to install. I have seen people ship out polyurethane doors with metal clad on each side, and they actually majority of the time get damaged on install because people don't realize the proper installation process for those doors. That's my opinion on it. I don't know why the manufacturers choose to send them in wood. I would just imagine to make them more structurally sound, to be honest with you. So no, it's not the greatest idea to put a door on a walk-in freezer that has moisture issues that's made out of wood, because the wood's going to warp and all kinds of things. But it's really about how you install the door, like I said in the video. I am not an expert. I've just learned a lot of weird things and learned what works and what doesn't work when installing those doors. I've done a bunch of them, and they're always a pain in the butt. They're not my favorite things whatsoever to do. They are very tedious, very time consuming. A lot of people ask me, why in the heck am I installing a door? Isn't there people that do that kind of stuff? And there is, but when it comes to these customers, a lot of the times they don't want to bring in other vendors. They want a vendor that can handle, majority of the issues. So if they see a refrigeration unit, they'll ask us to install the doors. And I don't mind installing a door, but I won't replace an entire box. That is not my thing. Too many trades are involved in that, and it's just a headache, and I'm not an installation company. But a lot of refrigeration companies out there do unit installations, like as far as a whole walk-in box or something like that. It's just not something that I choose to do, okay? So I don't mind changing a door, putting hinges, putting gaskets. That's no big deal, but I'm not going to replace the entire box, no. And there's a lot of very important stuff that needs to happen. I'm going to tell you a story that I don't do very much new construction, and it's partially for this reason, but I've got burned way too many times on new construction work. So I was doing, I'm not going to name the restaurant name because they're still in existence today, but I was doing an install and startup for a brand new restaurant, and the contractor that hired me was an air conditioning contractor, but he didn't do refrigeration work. So his guys, because he wanted to save money, it was coming out of his pocket, his guys installed the walk-in box, but he wanted me to install the refrigeration equipment in the box. So I did so, installed the refrigeration equipment in the walk-in cooler, walk-in freezer, what do they call it? A bakery walk-in a proofing walk, I don't know, whatever, just where they kept a bunch of bread and crap. They had a walk in there. I installed all the refrigeration, and I did all the ice machines. Then I did like 10 other installs on startup or whatever. And then one of them, though, what happened was their install guys, they called me out there after the place had been open for like 3 weeks, and they're like, we got a problem. There's ice all around the box, like on the floors and everything. And what happened was when he set the floor, before he did the walls, he did not level out underneath the floor. So there was a concrete pad and it wasn't level. And then when he tried to put all the walls and the doors together, there was gaps and it wasn't sitting level and nothing would come together right. And it was a walk-in freezer, and I could go on the outside of the box and I could take a infrared thermometer and I could look, and just from the outside of the box you had cold air seeping from all the floors and everything. And this place was already operational. Fire sprinklers were in, ductwork was in. I mean, this whole place was built around these walk-ins, right? Walk-ins aren't easy to change when a building's existing. That contractor ended up filing bankruptcy, and then ended up not paying me too. That was a whole nother thing, but he ended up filing bankruptcy. I'm sure it wasn't just because of that job, because I mean, what did he really lose on that job? Maybe 40 grand or something like that. And don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money, but usually that's not a bankrupt amount. Usually someone will recover from a loss like that for the most part, bigger contractors, but yeah, he ended up filing bankruptcy after that mistake. And it wasn't my mistake. He was like, what did you do? I'm like, I didn't do anything. I just installed the refrigeration equipment. Your problem because with your box that you installed, but it was all because he didn't level the floor right. It was just a mess. Oh, all right. Hello to everybody. My buddy Ralph's in here. How you doing, Ralph? Let me see. Where do they keep the foot lettuce, Chris? I don't know what you mean by that, Laska. Let me see. Why not fab up a temporary curtain in the walk-in so I could keep it on and fix the door? It's just too much work. When I'm doing a walk-in door replacement or something like that, it's just too much work to do that. A curtain's not going to solve anything. A curtain is not, because I was working from a walk-in freezer to a walk-in cooler. There's too much of a temperature change right there. A curtain isn't going to do anything except for slow down infiltration when people go in and out of the box, and that's it. But it's not going to be a permanent solution. So, all right, I'm looking through the chat, seeing what's going on in here. All right. If I ever get creative, run a set of lines from my computer's CPU water block to outside and hook up a small evaporator coil and fan to keep the room cooler. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, get the heat out of my office. Yeah, that would be a smart thing to do, especially since my computer's just pumping out the heat. It's right behind me right now, and that thing is kicking butt. By the way, that computer is kicking butt, man. We built that thing. It's nuts, the specs on it. I don't even have them, but it's crazy what the specs we went in. It was quite pricey, but it's kicking butt, man. When I'm rendering my videos, I know this is probably Chinese to a lot of different people, but when I'm rendering my videos, my last week's video was a 40 gig file, and it's barely using like 40% of my CPU, 30% of my CPU or something like that. And it's using my GPU to help it now. I changed my editing software, so I'm able to upload 4K. I'm able to, I'm not able to stream 4K, but my camera is recording 4K. So when it posts on YouTube, it'll be 4K, but it's not streaming in 4K. So it's just kind of how it is. But no, it's turning out really nice. So I'm still working out some kinks and the setups and stuff, and I'm still learning Adobe Premiere Pro. But so far so good. And the stream time, the upload time and stuff and the rendering time is doing really good too. So my biggest bottleneck now is my internet speed. So that is my biggest bottleneck. All right. Ever have a gas valve only open halfway, not allowing ice to harvest on a Manitowoc, by the way? Yeah, I have had Manitowoc harvest valves not open all the way, be sticky, not close all the way. Yeah, it is a common thing, and really it usually comes from people before you not using proper refrigeration practices when they're working on the system. That's the most common reason of sticky valves. Let's see. Why do they have heaters in the walk-in freezer doors? They'll have heaters on the door gasket, so that way the door gasket doesn't freeze and then the door freezes shut. So there's a perimeter heater just around the frame of the box. And then there'll typically be a door heater for a door sweep or like a screed that's underneath the door. So that way that doesn't freeze, because the gasket opening and the door sweep are the weak points, and a vacuum breaker has a heater in it too, which is an opening to try to relieve pressure inside the walk-in so that way it doesn't get stuck shut. But yeah, they'll put a heater in there, and it's just a very, very minute amount of current, and it just keeps anything from freezing around the doors. All right. Do I ever turn away work? Example, the bug low boy, or just suck it up. It's been a long time since I've turned away work. Usually what I'll do is if it's like really, really nasty, then I'll demand that they deep clean the box before I go in there and work on it, that kind of stuff. But it's not very often that I turn away work. It's occasional here and there. Like, for instance, last week, one of my customers sent me a work order for some lights above one of their reach-ins, and it came through as a refrigeration thing. But so I denied it because it wasn't my issue. It was an electrician's issue because it was literally a light in the drop ceiling. Like that kind of stuff, yeah, I'm going to turn away because that's not my thing. I don't have time to deal with that. And, it's not that I can't fix a light. It's not that I can't deal with that. It's that once I start taking on things that are beyond my scope of work, it becomes difficult when I have to send employees to do that stuff and they're not well versed in that kind of thing. And then it just leads to headaches. So I'm limited by my employees' abilities. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I can push harder and take on more work and have to take on more responsibility, but I choose not to because I've done it in the past to where I had to be the only person that could work for a particular customer because they have a refrigerator that has over $1 million of chemotherapy meds and different things like that. And for liability, I was the only person that would work on it, and they would call all the time. So I ended up, that customer ended up letting me go, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise because it just was too much stress having to deal with it all myself all the time. So, Jason Johnson says, hopefully I don't have Spectrum. They suck. Yeah, I'm pigeonholed with Spectrum. I have Spectrum. I have their fastest plan. I get like 1,000 down, but I get like, I'm guaranteed 20 up. Lately, I've been getting 40 gigs up for upload, but I have no other providers in my area. It's a weird little area where I live where I can only have Spectrum. I wish I could get fiber in here, but I can't. So Scott, thank you so very much for that super chat. That is much appreciated, man. You don't need to do that, but I appreciate it, man. And I'm hoping, Scott, you need to reach out to me. Hopefully we're going to be able to hook up if you're still going to make it to the iHacky trade show. So hopefully we can talk or figure out a time to meet up or something. So anything to drink, Joe is asking. I've got a what am I drinking? Hold on. It is I've been drinking this a lot. This is a local brewery, I believe, in San Diego called Alesmith. And this is a nut brown. This is I like brown ales. They're my favorite. So this is what I've been drinking lately. Super good. I've always liked dark ales, brown ales especially, amber ales. Those are good. I was drinking Corona this weekend because I was making fajitas and stuff. In the right situation, I can drink the piss beer, but it has to be the right situation. So, and it has to have lime in it for sure. Chris Young says, it's also a snowball effect until you don't recognize your own company. And that is exactly true. Chris, we used to have a lot of technicians working for us. So right now I'm understaffed right now, but my max right now is 5. And at one point in time, I think I had 6, 7, maybe 8 technicians. I can't remember. It was just out of control. The callbacks were through the roof. It was just headache after headache, nothing but complaints. And we downscaled a little bit, let go of a few customers and narrowed it down. So I would ideally like to have 5 technicians right now. Right now I have 2 technicians, a maintenance guy, and an apprentice. So we have 4 trucks on the road. I would like to get another 1 or 2 full-fledged technicians, but it's really difficult to hire experienced people, and it also takes time to train apprentices. So I'm currently training an apprentice. I'm doing really good. And then eventually I'll probably hire another tech too. But yeah, you don't want your company to become something you don't recognize for sure. So the 98 DeVille, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is much appreciated. Thank you. That's really cool. Jason Johnson says he has 40 techs and can't take on new customers. It's just nuts. I can't take on new customers either. There was several customers. I get people that reach out because of the videos, and I feel bad. They've been reaching out for years. There's one guy local to me that's been reaching out for like 2 years. He's been asking me, messaging me, and it's like, I just can't. I just don't have the ability to take on new customers. It's just nuts. Have I utilized UV lights in restaurant RTUs? No, I haven't. I'm not a big believer in that stuff. I don't understand it, so it's hard for me to fathom the indoor air quality stuff. I have installed some indoor air quality bipolar ionizers, but it was at the demand of the customer, and trust me, I tried to talk him out of it. My customer came to me, one of my good customers, and they said, I want bipolar ionizers installed in every air conditioner. Actually, he said he just wanted UV lights, and we couldn't get them. It was at the beginning of all the COVID crap, and you just couldn't get them. Like they just didn't exist. And then, like I told him, I said for a UV light to be functional in a package unit that's like a 15-ton unit, it'd have to be a huge bank of lights to even do anything. And I was able to get bipolar ionizers, and I explained I explained the documentation that the manufacturer sent and gave the customer all the information. And then I tried to talk the customer out of it. And I said, look, my opinion was, let me come in, let me fix all your economizers. Let's get fresh air in the building. We'll start exchanging a lot of air. We'll put in MERV 13 filters, or I don't think I wanted to do MERV 13 because that's a bit much, but I was like, let's put in really good filters. We'll do coil cleanings every month, all this stuff. And I said, trust me, I feel like that would be better than putting in some of these air quality or air cleaner things that we don't know what they are. Because I don't know. Again, I don't understand them, so it's voodoo magic to me. I've had friends, my buddy Clive, Big Clive's trying to explain it to me and stuff, and I just don't get it. So I don't know. Just not a believer. I'm not saying I'll never believe. I just need science. You know, I want third-party write-ups on them. I want people that are completely unbiased to do a write-up on there and explain the benefit of these indoor air quality devices. Every manufacturer out there that makes an indoor air quality whatever, insert name of whatever kind of device it is, that I've done research on, all their promotional information and all their scientific information was paid for or written by them. So it's like, no. We need an unbiased third-party person doing an independent research case on that to let us know if it's true. You know, show us the science. Don't just show us what it does in a little glass jar, you know, with an oversized bipolar ionizer in a small, tiny glass jar. That doesn't tell me anything. Tell me what it does when it's in a building, you know, moving air across it and then all that fancy stuff. So I'm not saying that they don't do anything. I'm just saying that I don't understand them. And that doesn't mean a lot because I'm not the smartest apple on the tree. Okay. So I know that. All right. What do I think of inverter units? 410A. I mean, it's the future. Inverter units are the future. Variable speed compressors are the way of the future. But in order for variable speed inverters to be efficient, they need to have a long life because the expense, the initial expense of a variable speed compressor with a drive or an inverter system on a residential system is really high. Okay. The expense is really high. So it needs to last 15 to 20 years to really pay for itself. Okay. And the repairs, you know, it needs to be installed properly. It needs to have proper power conditioning. We need to have voltage monitors watching the voltage, watching to make sure we don't have highs and lows and peaks. Southern California, we're notorious for bad, dirty power. So, but I think that inverter systems are the future. I think they're awesome. I can think of so many places that a variable speed compressor would do me a serious benefit, or at least do my customers a serious benefit on some of my refrigeration racks. Because I have racks that are basically compressor killers because they're designed with, let's just say, 6 to 10 evaporators. And the smallest evaporator might be 2,000 BTUs, but the compressor might be a 4 horsepower compressor. And there's times that every evaporator is satisfied except for that one 2,000 BTU evaporator, and you have a 4 horsepower compressor. And it runs really low suction pressure, it short cycles, and it gets no cooling back to that compressor because there's no load, you know? And I think those are compressor killers, and that's where inverter technology really would help out on the refrigeration side, is it would save these customers some serious money if it lasted. So inverters, I think, are the future though. So, all right. Do I ever work on chillers? Smith's HVACR. No, I don't work on chillers. I do light commercial refrigeration and air conditioning. So Cyborg Sheep said that everyone is biased, and there's some truth in that statement. There is some truth in that for sure. Let's see what else we got in here. Would I move to industrial refrigeration? It's interesting to me, but I wouldn't move my company to industrial. I would have no business doing that. I'd have to learn industrial for a good 5 to 10 years before I tried to start a business in industrial. I mean, you know, it's interesting to me though. Sure. I mean, supermarket refrigeration is interesting to me, but I would never work those hours. So I would love to get in there and work normal hours. Sure. All day long. Industrial, it sounds really fun. But I wouldn't take my company into industrial now. Let's see what else we got going on here. Do I have experience using aftermarket bolt-on freezer doors, Chain of Lakes refrigeration and AC? Yeah, I do. I've done a bunch of them. I just did it last week on my video, or yesterday's video. I did a bolt-on freezer door. I've done many aftermarket ones from several manufacturers. I've done tons of them. Yeah, they're usually a Band-Aid, because majority of the time the reason why the door failed is because of massive structural damage. That was the case in my video yesterday, was there was massive structural damage, and the door that I put on there is literally polishing a turd. It's not going to last because they have to replace the entire box, or replace the door pocket, the whole frame assembly, and the floor, which just seems stupid, but you know, that's the customer's deal. It's not my thing to, because I don't do the work. Do I have a specific approach to inverter boards and compressors? No, I don't have a specific approach. I don't have a lot of experience diagnosing inverter compressors and boards. You got to make sure you have a good high quality meter. You're going to want to lean on the manufacturer, check proper voltages. But I don't have experience with them. I would just take common sense logic to them. Digital compressors are pretty nice. Yeah, Jason Johnson. I mean, they are if you understand how they work and stuff. I mean, I have a couple train package units that have digital compressors in them. I don't know how to deal with them because it's all Trane's proprietary stuff. And, you know, it's like not really a whole, I mean, they work, you know, I don't have a lot of diagnosing going on with them. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get to my list of things to talk about. So, in my video yesterday, a couple questions. People were asking about why the walk-in freezer door was made out of wood. I kind of already addressed that. It's just, in my opinion, just for structural reasons. Was the entire box made of wood? And no. Okay, the entire box was polyurethane with metal clad on each side, and it's made in a factory. You know, kind of like well, you guys know, it's just metal and foam in the middle, right? But once that gets damaged, they'll oftentimes have you put bolt-on doors, and the ones that the customer provided me in this situation was a wood bolt-on door with, you know, a metal clad on top of the wood. But no, the entire box was not made out of wood. So let's see what else we got in here. I'm looking through the chat. I already answered that question. By digital compressors, they mean a compressor with an unloader, right? No, not necessarily, Cyborg Sheep. Digital compressors, you have inverter-driven compressors, variable speed compressors. You know, in old school, I mean, it's not old school, but old school, we would have a semi-hermetic compressor that had an unloader, okay? And it would literally blank off, you know, and basically only pump out of so many valves out of the compressor, right? Nowadays, you can have digital compressors or inverter-driven compressors that can stage the compressor down via, what do you want to call it, unloaders, right, or a type of unloader. That is one way of doing it, but there's also inverter-driven that actually slow down the motor in the compressor, so the pumping slows down. So there's a couple different methods you can do it, but you do have the multi-stage compressors that literally can stage down like 27 times or something like that in some of the residential crap. But then the new trend right now is inverter-driven compressors. They'll have an actual drive on them, and you program the drive for certain parameters, and it'll slow down and speed up the compressor depending on the load. So let's see. When drinking a beer, is beer can cold enough? Well, the beer that I drink, right, which is the AleSmith Nut Brown, actually tastes better when it gets to about 45 degrees. So the flavor really comes out of it. So I actually don't drink it really cold. If you're drinking piss beer, yes, it needs to be ice cold so you can't even taste it. And then you put lime in it, so that way all you taste is the lime and the ice cold fluid. That's it. So, you start a PM on an industrial site tomorrow. 8 makeup airs, 5 chillers, 3 boilers, 8 RTUs, and a split and ductless. That's a eclectic mix of equipment right there, and that seems like a couple weeks worth of work depending on how the customer wants the PM done. Jason Johnson, is it an actual customer that's concerned about their equipment? I mean, are they giving you a couple weeks to do all that, or are they literally just having you come in and wash coils and move on? Like, is it just a really quick, you know, blow and go, or is it, you know, tear down the chiller, all that kind of stuff, do it right? It might even be a couple months. I mean, that's a lot of equipment depending on how much the customer wants to involve in it. And that's something to talk about too. You know, there's preventative maintenance can mean a lot of different things depending on what the customer wants. If you have a customer, like I used to do work for a hospital customer, and they didn't care the cost. They just wanted it fixed and not being down. So they would schedule downtime. You would have all the time in the world. And I mean, they still wanted quotes from you, but really cost wasn't an issue because they just wanted it fixed and operational. To the customers that I deal with today are like restaurants and stuff. And, you know, they want you to come in and maintain their equipment, but they don't want you splitting coils. They don't want you tearing things down. They don't want you open up every contactor. They just want you to be there for about 5 hours for the entire day. You know, you can get 9 package units done in 5 hours and all the refrigeration equipment. I mean, you're really not being able to spend a lot of time on equipment, but that's what the customer wants a lot of times. So let's see what else we got in here. 56 hours PM, nothing crazy this go around. Next PM is 150. So, okay, so 56 hours. Yeah, so what is that? That is 24 foot. So yeah, that's not very much time at all. So this is just a quick blow and go, just to make sure it's operational, make sure there's nothing critical happening, no crazy noises, change filters in the package units, rinse coils off. You know, you're not draining a cooling tower or anything like that. It doesn't sound like, not in 56 hours, unless you've got 15 guys on that job. Am I licensed in electrical to do new installs, or do I just have training? Seth, no, I am a licensed refrigeration and air conditioning contractor. I'm not an electrician, but we are allowed to do certain work Basically, I don't pull breakers, or I don't install breakers, and I don't pull new electrical from the breaker panel, but I will install electrical from the roof deck up. So if I have a package unit on the roof that needs new electrical and I have a junction box, you know, I'll make new electrical connections in that and run new conduit to the unit, but I'm not licensed to do real electrical work. No. All right. Have I ever done any HVACR commercial indoor grows? No, Kyle B. I have not had an opportunity to do any grow rooms. Ironically, I live in California and we have like a majority of the grow rooms here, but no, I don't. Plug Trevor Matthews compressor masterclass. Trevor Matthews, by the way, is killing it right now. So my buddy Trevor Matthews used to work for Emerson Copeland. He left Emerson Copeland on good terms, started his own thing. It's called Refrigeration Mentor. He's all over social media. If you guys haven't seen him, he's a great dude. Trevor and I actually are supposed to do a collaboration. It's all on me. Trevor's been ready to do it since the day I asked him. I just have been busy and haven't had an opportunity, but I've got the perfect video where I already filmed it. You guys have already seen the video, but I want to do a compressor analysis. I have all the parts here and I want to do it over video conference with Trevor and figure all that stuff out. But Trevor Matthews is a cool dude, refrigeration mentor. If any of the moderators can plug anything about Trevor, that'd be great. If someone can throw a YouTube channel in there or something like that, that'd be awesome. Trevor's a cool dude. Let's see. Miguel Martinez, it says you're listening to me while you book a surprise trip to Italy for your 32 anniversary. Congratulations, Miguel. That is awesome, man. 32 years. So my wife and I are at 16 years right now. I think 16 years married. And we're planning something really big for our 20th, which is coming up in a couple years. The plan is, if it all goes well, we're actually going to rent out the place that we got married at and do a big party there. Not a wedding, but like a big party. Invite all of the now adults that were kids that were in my wedding at the time. That's scary. We had like the ring bearer. I think the ring bearer at my wedding is like 19 now, which is just nuts. It's just crazy. But a bunch of the kids and, you know, families, that's the plan. At least in 4 years, we're going to rent out the venue and do a big giant party there. So that'd be really cool. Yeah, John Cruz, you should. Trevor's a cool dude. He's a really smart guy too. Let's see. Miguel Martinez, I was going to joke around. You said you're listening to us while you book a surprise trip to Italy. So last week, I think it was after the overtime show. I was a little bit out of it, to say the least. If you guys don't know, I do a show on the HVAC Overtime YouTube channel with my friends on Friday nights. But anyways, after the overtime show, I went to go book my AHR hotel room, and I booked the wrong hotel room. I wasn't really paying attention. I booked it through the wrong website. It was really expensive. I booked a hotel in Vegas, and what I ended up doing was I ended up booking for New Year's instead of the AHR trade show. So that's why it was so expensive, because I booked a room for New Year's, and my wife was like, you should have kept the room. And I was like, no, we're not going to Vegas for New Year's. It's just nuts there. So let's see something here real quick. Looking to see if my family messed with the thermostat, because it is hot in here. Nope, they didn't. All right. So I'm going to go through my list of things to talk about right now. I already answered that questions for that one. Let me ask that one. Steven asked me a question: what pressures a system should run, and what superheat and subcooling should he see, and where should he check them? Okay, and he's talking about a refrigeration system. When it comes to anything that you're working on, first off, you need to understand basic refrigeration principles, okay? When it comes to superheat and subcooling, you need to understand when they're relevant and when they're not. A lot of the times in refrigeration, we don't really use subcooling very much, especially if it's a pump down system. If the system has an expansion valve with the receiver, we'll typically charge via a sight glass. Unless it has a head pressure control valve, then you have to add extra refrigerant. I've talked about that ad nauseum. But when it comes to superheat, you need to pay attention to two things. You have compressor superheat and evaporator superheat. Compressor superheat always trumps evaporator superheat, okay? You need to have the minimum compressor superheat at minimum compressor superheat at your compressor. You always want to lean on the compressor manufacturer because that number will change. You don't want superheat to be too low. You always want to have at least a certain amount of superheat at the compressor, I should say, okay? Because too little and you could damage the compressor too much, and you could damage the compressor too, because most of our modern compressors are refrigerant cooled. So meaning that the suction gas coming back through the suction line is required to cool off the windings of that compressor. And if that suction gas is not cooling it off, if your superheat is too high, then if the insulation's missing off the suction lines and different things like that, then we have to figure something out, okay? Now, you always want to pay attention to, like I said, the compressor superheat always trumps the evaporator superheat. Of course, for a perfectly efficient system, you want perfect evaporator superheat, perfect compressor superheat. But in some weird situations, especially on really short line sets, you may have to increase the evaporator superheat because you may have too low compressor superheat because the line set's not very long, and it's not absorbing very much heat from the evaporator to the condensing unit. Okay, so always remember, compressor superheat is number one, evaporator superheat is number two, but both of them are very important, and if you adversely change one, it can affect the other one. So keep that in mind, okay? So when it comes to what superheat should you have, well, it really depends on what you're working on, okay? There's rules of thumb. What I would highly suggest is this book right here, Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians. This is the 4th edition by Dick Wurz. You can find this on Amazon. I'm pretty sure there's a link in the show notes of my video for it. It's a great book, and it's going to explain rules of thumb and basics about refrigeration. I would highly suggest, if you guys don't have that book, check it out. And I got to say thank you so very much to Dick Wurz, because in the forward of the book, he actually gives me credit, myself and Brian Orr, for being like mentors or whatever, right? And the online information we're giving, it's really cool. I was really neat. Yeah, Indian acknowledgements, I think is what it is. Yeah. He has me, he spelled my name wrong, but he has me and Brian Orr, and he gives thanks to it. So that was really nice of Dick Wurz to do that. He's a really, really nice guy. I was very fortunate to be able to meet him at the last Kalos training event, the HVACR training symposium, of which I'm really trying to plan on being at in person this coming year. Again, I'll talk about that more as time comes on. So definitely check out that book, Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Technicians by Dick Wurz. So, all right, let's get to the chat, see what I'm missing here. Hookers and Blow in Vegas. Vegas is going to be a fun time for sure. So definitely is. See what else. The channel is a master class. Oh, okay, you're talking about Trevor's channel. Let's see. Oh, so Joe's saying that Trevor has a master class coming up in 2 weeks for $500 and 4 weeks. Oh, okay, right on. That's really cool. I'll have to check that out for sure. See what else we got going on in here. How much of a difference of pressure should we have across high and low side? Carlos Cervantes. It really, again, depends on what you're working on and the refrigerant you're using, okay? What you need to understand is how the manufacturer designed the piece of equipment you installed. We as service technicians can have rules of thumb, but it really is determined by how the manufacturer designed said equipment. If we have a refrigeration unit that was engineered to do something specific, you might have a really high evaporator TD. But as a rule of thumb, basic walk-in cooler, basic walk-in freezer, your evaporator TD is going to be about 10 degrees. So that means whatever your box temperature is, the desired box temperature, your evaporator saturation temperature should be about 10 degrees below the return air temperature of the evaporator when it's down to temperature. So that's a good way to figure out what the refrigeration pressure should be. I'd encourage all of you guys, if you're interested in finding out what pressure should be and stuff, you need to start looking at things in temperatures. When you start looking at saturation temperatures, it doesn't matter what flavor of refrigerant you're dealing with, because you're just paying attention to temperatures. So if you know that your evaporator was designed with a 10-degree TD, then insert flavor of refrigerant, just look at the saturation temperatures, and boom. I don't care what, because we have so many different flavors of refrigerant out there that the pressures are going to change significantly from every refrigerant. It's too hard to remember all those, but it's not hard at all to remember saturation temperatures. If I know that I have a 35-degree walk-in cooler, right? We're maintaining 35 degrees in there, and it's 35 degrees in there. On average, I should have a 10-degree evaporator TD. So that means that my saturation temperature should be 25 degrees. So I look at a pressure chart, 404A, I'm looking at it right now. Saturation temperature for 404A at 25 degrees is 62 PSI. If I go over at 25 degrees for 404 is 62. 407 is 51. 407C is 43. I mean, and it goes all the way over. It's constantly changing. But if we just look at the temperatures, it makes things so much easier. So in refrigeration, we have a habit of focusing on temperatures as opposed to pressures, right? And then so when you're working on a condenser, if you have a really, really old system, you know, anything that's tube and fin, you know, typically it's going to be 25 to 30 degree condenser TD. And then microchannels, typically going to be 15 to 20 degrees condenser TD, but those are all rules of thumb, and sometimes manufacturers change things. Right now, there's a big change coming out in the refrigeration industry because we have this AWEF compliance that we now have to follow, mandated by the Department of Energy, and manufacturers are having to meet certain energy requirements, just like when they implemented the SEER ratings for residential air conditioning and commercial air conditioning, they're doing it on refrigeration side now. So now manufacturers have to meet certain energy efficiencies, right, and electrical consumption requirements, right, because they don't want them using a lot of electricity. So they're oversizing condensers. They're putting, you know, different stuff to try to drop head pressure. They're putting head pressure control valves that bypass at really low pressures that basically say they're never going to bypass. And they're floating head pressure down because the higher the head pressure, the more electrical consumption. So they're reducing that. And when they do that, they're oversizing condensers. So they're changing a whole the rules of thumb. So it's always important to know that we need to lean on the manufacturers and talk to them and figure out what they want us to have, you know? Depending on how old your equipment is, everything's going to change. So I'm going to get to a list of things right now. When it came to the walk-in freezer door video that I did yesterday, I kind of wanted to address this. That video was frustrating, right? Doing that walk-in freezer door was really frustrating because it was all for nothing. When I got that door off and I cleaned everything up and I dried it all off and I got ready to put the new door on, I realized that there was unrepairable damage to the frame of that box. And I knew that putting this new door on there was polishing a turd. There was really no point other than I had to put a door on there. So we had to put it on. There was nothing else I could do, but I know that that's not going to last, you know, another year, barely anything, right? So it was a bummer to have to do that kind of stuff. But while I was frustrated and while it made me angry, you know, and in part of me was a little bit like, wow, what did I do wrong? How come I didn't notice that before? It's not my fault, okay? The customer inevitably is responsible because I will tell you that what happened was all through COVID, that door was all frozen over. There was ice everywhere and it wouldn't shut. They were slamming it shut. They were chipping away ice. So had they addressed it when it first happened, when the door first got damaged, had they called me out there and we addressed it and ordered a door, then we might have been able to save the box. But unfortunately, everything happened because of the, you know, everybody shut down and they weren't spending money and just craziness happened. And at this particular customer, there's multiple restaurants that have the same issue. And it's like these boxes are compromised. The entire unit's going to need to be replaced. And we have to remember that stuff, that sometimes there's only so much we can do as technicians. And we have to remember to do our due diligence and try to do things right. But at the end of the day, if we did everything right, when there's catastrophic failures or when it's not repairable, it's not our fault. Okay. And we may feel guilty about that, but it's not my fault that that box is trash. It's not my fault that the customer is going to have to go spend $80,000, $90,000 or whatever it is to replace an entire box with permits and, you know, rentals and all this crazy contractors and electricians and fire sprinkler people and fire alarm people. And it's going to be nuts if they have to replace that entire box. It's going to be crazy. A big time, giant expense for sure. You know, you can't fix stupid. You cannot fix stupid, right? And if a customer chooses to not fix things because you give them advice or because they don't want to make service calls, you can only do so much with that, right? Here's your sign kind of a thing. I'm going to mark that one off my list. But it is kind of like I said in there, as a technician, it is our job to give a big picture diagnosis, even if the customer isn't going to accept a big picture quote, right? But we still give it to them. We give them a big picture diagnosis and we give them all the information and we lay down options, and they may choose the cheaper option, but at least we gave them the option. So that way when something happens and they come back and say, hey, you just put all that money into it. And I say, well, I gave you the options to do it right, but you didn't want to. You know, I've got an out. I didn't do anything wrong. So, but just always try your best, right? Let me look at the chat and see what else we got going on in here. Have I heard about the Title 24 requirements or Title 20 requirements for computer power consumption? No, I have not. Anybody else ever try looking up for the Thumbs brand of uninterrupted power supplies? Nope, I haven't. I don't even know what that is. Ralph passed along some great info on glides. Right on, dude. Ralph is a cool dude. Ralph has a lot of great information on there. Glides are a bit different, though, Chris. You shoot for the midpoint. Oh, okay. You're saying with Jason Johnson. Okay, I see what you're saying, Jason. Yeah, you definitely want to shoot for the midpoint in certain situations when it comes to glides, depending on what you're working on. That is correct, okay? Especially with the high glide refrigerants, for sure. Yes. But we're trying to get across a basic understanding of looking at temperatures versus pressures. So I really don't want to go too far into glides quite yet until we get people really on the mindset of thinking about temperatures and saturation temperatures. Then you can introduce them to glides. So that's why I don't really go super deep into the glide stuff, because we're just trying to give a basic stop paying attention to pressures and start paying attention to temperatures. And then we can talk about when we're calculating evaporator efficiency, when we're calculating condenser inefficiency, we can talk about the glide and say, well, this is how the glide affects it. We get more BTUs out of the evaporator. We get less BTUs out of the condenser in the middle of the summer. The expansion valve has a lot to do with that. And then when we're calculating different things, when we're looking at evaporator temperatures, yeah, we definitely want to look at midpoints, you know, and there's a lot that goes into that. And it is important that we understand that. That's why I say it's better to read a book on it and have someone explain it out, you know, and where it really makes sense, instead of having some idiot like me stumble through it and give you incorrect information. So let's see what else. What do we got going on in here? Yeah, my wallpaper is PT charts for sure. Let's see if I can pan over and you guys can see that. I have a crap ton of PT charts on my wall in my office. So let me hit configure video. And then if I go right here, camera control, and then I go pan. Yep. I have a bunch of PT charts all on the wall right there. Other ones that you guys can't see, I have piping diagrams all right here. I don't know what, wow, my camera just did something really funky right there, right? All right, let's go back to that. And then if I go here, I can show you guys this one too. You might be able to see some other, let's see if I turn that off. I don't know that this is really going to do a whole lot, but you can see I have expansion valve charts right here, more pressure temperature charts. You can't see these other ones that I have on this wall over here. But yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff all over my office right now. I like those. I've always liked walking into them. I'll be honest with you, the what gave me the inspiration for all these charts on my walls is walking into supply house bathrooms. When you walk into the bathrooms, they always have cool posters on the wall when you're taking a leak, right? And I was like, man, I want those posters in my office. You know, I got temperature charts and stuff, so it helps out a lot when I'm sitting in my office trying to answer emails and stuff, and I can look at that. Let's see what else we got in here. Is superheat and subcooling enough to determine that the system is working good? No. Never is superheat and subcooling enough to determine that the system is working properly, because you can be fooled by so many different things. So first and foremost, the first thing you do with the system, if you want to determine if it's working properly, is make sure that you have airflow. I don't care if it's air conditioning or refrigeration, because superheat and subcooling are going to be flawed if you don't have proper airflow. So once you have proper airflow and you know that the evaporator fan motors are correct, they don't look like someone's put in the wrong motor, wrong blades, they're not bent. On residential air conditioning, commercial air conditioning, you can measure the airflow. It's a little more difficult to measure airflow on evaporators, on reach-ins and walk-ins and stuff, but it is possible. Then what you want to do is look at system operations. Is it fully charged? Then once you dial in the charge and the box is coming down in temperature, that's when you're going to start paying attention to superheat, looking at that, all while paying attention to a lot of other factors too. Compressor energy consumption, how's the current of it, different stuff like that. So, but no, superheat and subcooling do not give you the whole picture. They're just a tiny little, that's like blood pressure. Does your blood pressure tell you everything about your health? No, but it gives you good indications about things, but it doesn't tell you everything, okay? Just because you have low blood pressure or high blood pressure does not tell you everything, unless you start looking at all the information, and then it starts to give you an idea what's going on here. Stole PP posters. That's right, last guy did steal PP posters. What's outside the window? I have a sliding glass door, and then there's like a rose garden right here, and just the side of my house. It's just like a little fenced in area. Let me see what else we got going on in here. Okay, I'm going to get to my list of things to talk about. So someone had pointed out in my YouTube comments that They were amazed, and they were clearly not a refrigeration and air conditioning person. I get a lot of people that aren't in the trade that watch my videos, and it's really cool to know that, you know. But they were amazed with how much goes into this trade. We have to know basic electrical, basic plumbing, basic carpentry. You have to know basic mechanical skills. You have to know advanced refrigeration, advanced air conditioning. I mean, there really is a lot that goes into this, you know? And so when I focus on light commercial refrigeration and air conditioning, just dealing with restaurants, I mean, I'm dealing with ice machines, refrigerators, walk-ins, furnaces. Like, I mean, there's so much going on just in that little niche that I do. And then you get into industrial, you get into, I mean, there's so many different facets of this industry, and it's so cool to know we're going to be employed for life if we're a good technician. So it's really neat, but there is a lot of stuff we have to know. And it pays off, you know. My washing machine wasn't quite working today, and it kept going out of balance. You know, my wife was going nuts, and oh, you know what? One of the legs broke, and I had to level it out. But it's just common sense to me. But to my wife, she's like, I didn't know. You know, she didn't see that it wasn't level. But I just look at things, and I'm like, that's not level. It's just part of our. You know, once you get into things and you can start looking at things and say, that's not level, that's not right. And you see things, you know, and I don't know. Is it just me? Am I just a nutcase that sees weird crap like that? Or I could be walking my dog, or I don't walk my dog because it's too small, but I could be walking around the neighborhood or something like that. And I can hear people's condenser fan motor going out, you know, from around their house, or I can hear, you know, different things. I can hear someone driving down the street and I can tell that, you know, their brakes are going bad. Like I focus on weird crap. See what I'm missing in here. Your blood pressure tells you need a vacation. Lasco, what is a vacation? I don't know what that is. I've never, that's like Spanish to me, dude. I need one too. What are my thoughts of companies using drones with infrared to do RTU surveys? I think it's cool if you can. Ironically, if you're using a drone, this is the weird thing, because I went down this rabbit hole because I bought a fancy drone, right? I have one, but I can't use it on my videos because I don't have the FAA license to fly my drone for commercial use. Legally, if you're using your drone to map out RTU replacements and stuff like that, nobody's ever going to know, but you legally have to have an FAA license to be able to fly it for commercial use. So anytime you're making money using your drone, the FAA wants you to pay fees to get a special license. And while it be that they actually do have some requirements within that license that teaches you about air traffic, knowing when it's safe to fly a drone, knowing where it's safe not to fly a drone, different stuff like that. So there is some logic to why they want you to have that license. But it's really interesting to know that, like, I legally can't use my drone in my videos. Not that I would anyways, but it's something interesting. Am I going to iHacky this month? Free funky. Yeah, I'll be there at iHacky. I plan on being there first thing in the morning, and I'll probably be there till around 2 p.m. Pacific time at the iHacky trade show in Pasadena. It's a local trade show we have. So yeah, I will be there. I will be bouncing around at a couple different booths, meeting up with a couple different people. So I'm not crazy. Flip Flop Tan Line says that. So hey man, if you said it, that must be true. What was the worst walk-in door service call I've ever come across? Just really damaged ones, man. It's hard to pick one that's the worst, but every walk-in door replacement is always a pain in the butt. Let's see what else. Vacation is Chinese for you. You don't take vacations to get away. You take it to work on your... Yeah, exactly. That would be true. Take vacation and then you just work around the house or something like that. I took a vacation with my brother. I think I've done it 2 times. I've gone to Costa Rica 2 times. I went with my brother. That was actually one of my favorite vacations I ever took. My brother was just getting off of... It was a weird situation, but he was just getting out of deployment, right? So because he was getting off deployment, he was coming home, and he works a federal job too, so he's a reservist. So he came from deployment, and he had 3 months in between when he had to go back to work. So he came back stateside, but he had 3 months off before he had to go back to his normal federal job. So he traveled around the world, and I got to meet him in Costa Rica, and him and I did a backpacking trip. Super low cost. We didn't even spend very much money. The most expensive thing was my plane ticket. Flew to Costa Rica, got on a city bus and took it around the country of Costa Rica, went to a bunch of different cities. We started in Monterey, which is a hellhole. Then we went to, where's the cities we went to? We went to Arenal, I can't even think of the cities right now, but Arenal was my favorite one because there's a giant volcano. So you're like, you wake up from your hotel room and it's like a crappy hostel you're staying in. You sleep in a place with multiple bunks with other people sleeping, but it's so awesome. My brother and I did that. And then I ended up taking my wife back 2 years later. Just her and I went there and stayed in some nice places. But the reason why I brought that up was that was one of the only vacations I took, and I did not have cell phone service whatsoever the entire time. It was so interesting because it took me a good 2-3 days to get over the anxiety of having no cell phone service. And I really only got to spend another 3-4 days before it was time to go home. But it's really interesting going from the working mentality of boom, boom, boom. It was interesting too when I was on that vacation was I met some travelers from other countries and they were like, yeah, I'm on holiday. Someone from Europe. She was a doctor and I was talking to her and she's like, yeah, I'm on holiday. And I'm like, so when do you go home? And she's like, no plans. I'm off for a couple months, however long I want to be. And it's so intriguing to know in other countries they can do that kind of stuff. See, here in the United States, you're lucky if you get a week off and you got to get back to work. But in other countries, you can go on extended holiday and it's no big deal. Your job's there when you get back. Nobody's demanding that. It was just so interesting to know that, you know, that other countries do things differently. Now, I'm not saying the other countries are right or wrong because obviously we have a great economy and, you know, anyways, that's a whole thing. But it was just interesting to talk to those people that just go on holiday, you know, and it's just like they're just gone until they come back. So that's just nuts. Jason Johnson says he loved Portugal, would love to go back one day. Yeah, I want to take my kids to Costa Rica because Costa Rica was awesome for sure. Yeah, Colombia. Yeah, no, I'm not going to Colombia, Alaska. That's not a place I really want to be. Tips on being a better service technician, Free Funky. Open your eyes, man. Open your eyes and ears and pay attention. That's the best advice I can give to every service technician out there. Be curious. You know, when you get off work, you're not off work. Take pictures all day long. Research when you get home, you know, sit down on the couch, watch TV, put your feet up, put your pajamas on, grab a beer, whatever, and just start Googling things, man. Google a piece of equipment. You know, I love researching things and digging into things. Nowadays, I'm so busy that I have a million different things that I want to research and I never get to them. But the best advice I can give to any service technician is be curious, be interested, and just always keep your eyes open and your ears open and just listen and learn and pay attention to everything. Bring up as much stuff to the customer. You know, this motor sounds, it's running really hot. It's running high current. You know, bring that stuff up. Let them know that you're a very thorough technician. That's some of the best advice I think I can give any technician out there. Some people had asked me about my camera quality. Many people said that they noticed a difference in my live stream, in my studio videos, and then in my videos. It's really has a lot to do with my editing program. I did, since I upgraded my PC to a crazy powerful PC, I am filming, which I have been filming for a while, but I'm filming 100% in 4K. My studio camera that I'm pointing at right now is filming in 4K. It doesn't stream in 4K, but hold on just a second. Look at this guy. Oh, look at this guy. My wife just handed him in here. This is my little guy, Luke, right now. He's getting big. Look at... Oh, no. He's licking my face right now, but look at this guy, man. He's so big now. He's so big. This is Luke. He is a silver Labrador. So he's not a Weimaraner. He's not a pit bull. He's not any of that stuff. He's a purebred silver Labrador. Super cool little dude. He's my little buddy, man. He's been my editing buddy. He's been making videos with me and just chilling out. And he's a headache for sure. So, oh. Super cool little dude, though, man. I had asked my wife to bring him in, so... yeah, he's getting so big. I want to say, I think I said it before, but I think his dad was like 80 or 90 pounds, and his mom was like 80 pounds or so. He's going to be a 80-pound dog for sure. So, definitely. Let's see what else we got going. Yeah, he wants kisses for sure. He just got done licking his balls, by the way, too. He loves to do that, and then he'll lick my face all, and I'm like, dude, why are you licking your junk, and then you lick my face? It just drives me nuts. Let's see. Yeah, he's grown since last week. Yeah, he grows every week, man. It's nuts. Be intrigued when working with others. That's what John Cruz said. Definitely, man. Always ask questions. no matter how good of a technician we are, right? I've got 20 years experience as a service technician, but I learn something every day. Whether it be I learn how a compressor works, I read something on social media, I see something that someone did wrong and I learn from it, but I'm always learning, always paying attention. So Anthony, thank you so very much for that super sticker. That is an amazing donation to the channel. That is awesome, bud. You guys don't have to do these channel donations. They're much appreciated though, but you don't have to. The easiest way to support the channel is simply watch the videos from beginning to end without skipping through anything, right? Because then YouTube runs commercials and ads and, you know, they pay revenue to me or they give me a small percentage of the revenue shares. But you can obviously super chat, super sticker, PayPal, Patreon, YouTube channel memberships. There's links in the show notes if you do want to do that. Another cool way to support the channel is I have a merchandise store, hvacrvideos.com. We got hats, t-shirts. This is my flag shirt. So it says HVACR videos and then has a flag on the sleeve. And then we have this one is only available in black. And then we have the big picture diagnoses shirt. This one right here. This is my original design. We have these in black, gray, and white and all different sizes. We also have zip-up hoodies. Zip-up hoodies. Let me see if I can find one of those. So I got zip-up hoodies right here. It's an all-black, really heavy-duty hoodie that has my logo on the front. And then it's super basic, just says HVACR videos. We only have those in a zip-up hoodie, though. So if you're interested, check out hvacrvideos.com. Just a great way to support the channel. Ysidro Del Valle. I don't know if I butchered your name. Thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is amazing. That's awesome, bud. Let's see what else we got going on in here. Jason Johnson, see you later, bud. Thanks for coming in here, okay? So, let's see. Are the door jobs necessarily difficult when I'm changing the walk-in doors? I wouldn't say they're difficult. They're just very tedious. There's a lot of different steps that you have to take, cleaning all the old stuff out, drying the floors out to the best of your ability, fixing electrical, making sure the door shuts, test fitting it a couple times before you make a permanent fit. So it's just tedious. And if you skip steps, they can lead to disaster as far as how the doors work, but it's not necessarily that they're difficult. So, why isn't that I don't install curtains, door curtains? Customers don't want them. Customers see door curtains as just an unnecessary expense because a lot of the times the cooks will cut them, they'll rip them, they'll prop them out of the way, and they just don't even get used and they go bad all the time. So the customers typically don't want door curtains. They've all pretty much said they don't want them anymore. See what else we got going on in here. What determines when an RTU uses second stage, time or pressure? Vlad, it really depends on the RTU you're working on. So some of them will have 4 compressors in them, you know, and they'll have an algorithm built into the air conditioner. Majority of the time, the thermostats downstairs will typically have 2 stages of cooling, first and second stage. The thermostat has an algorithm built into it. It might send a signal for first stage. Depending on the unit you're working on, it might turn on 2 compressors, okay? So it's usually the algorithm in the thermostat that determines between 1 and 2 compressors, and then anything past that is usually in the unit itself. We'll have a logic board, and it'll determine when to turn on 3rd, 4th, 5th compressor or whatever. But it's usually the thermostat. Lee, thank you so very much, man. You said that I've taught you so much. You came into the trade knowing nothing. You use things you have learned. Oh, that's really awesome, bud. That's really humbling to know that I've shared my knowledge and it's helped you to grow as a service technician. That's really cool because, you know, I never had a plan when I started these videos. I literally started them for my own employees and just made them public, and it just kind of grew legs and walked with itself. And I still have fun with it. I know that I could squeeze this thing for a bunch of money and do all kinds of crazy stuff and advertise every snake oil possible and you know, leak sealant here, all this stuff, but I don't want to do that stuff. I just like to have fun, and I don't want to be owned by anybody. I do have some partners that I work with, Sporlin, Refrigeration Technologies, but they don't make snake oils. They're great companies. I just like to have fun with it. So this has just been a cool process, and I'm going to continue doing it for sure. So the logic and the stat determines staging, question mark, from Vlad. For first and second stage, typically yes, but sometimes the unit's logic can also take over and take control of first and second stage. So let's just say that your unit has an economizer control. So you might get a first stage call and it might open the economizer on first stage. And then when you get a second stage call from your thermostat, they might turn on the first compressor. And then the unit might turn on the third and fourth compressor. So it really depends on the type of equipment you have and where the logic is at. On the most basic system that has 2 compressors, the thermostat is going to be the logic. But if it gets super fancy with control boards and different things like that, the unit's logic can take precedent over what the thermostat says. Let's see. John Cruz says, you hate tedious things and it just doesn't work right. That's when steam comes out of your ears. Yeah, steam comes out of my ears a lot, man. I hear you on that one. Let's see. Let me see what else we got going on in here. Kevin Sutton says he's looking in to get into HVAC trade, but his biggest concern is schooling. He has a disability and he's just scared he's going to fail. Do I have any advice? The cool thing, I don't know what your disability is, and you don't need to disclose that on here. But what I'm saying is the cool thing is majority of the schools out there, if you go to community colleges and public schools, they have cool things for people with disabilities that will help you through your learning process, no matter what you're getting involved in. Understand, again, not knowing what your disability is, and I don't need to know it. I'm not asking for it. But depending on what your disability is, it might lead to certain things within the trade. But, you know, there's lots of different facets of this trade, and we have room for everybody. So, yeah, if you go to a community or public school, community college, they usually have some great programs for people with disabilities. Like, let's just say, for instance, you were deaf. Okay. I know someone that's deaf in the HVAC trade, and in HVAC school in a local community college, they'll assign someone to sit with you and make sure that they're giving you the appropriate sign language. That way you can understand what the instructor's saying, and vice versa. If you have, you know, like a mental learning disability where you have ADD or something like that, they have all kinds of different programs that can help you out. So there's lots of help out there. Go to your student resource center, you know, and talk to them, and they'll have a million different ways that they can help you out. So don't let your disability hinder your interest in the HVAC trade, because there's something in this trade that you can do no matter what your disability is. Okay. So definitely get into the trade, man. This is a great trade for sure. The free iHacky classes in Irwindale, Miguel Martinez. I didn't see the first part of your thing, Miguel, but are you talking about the free? I'm looking up to see if I can see what you were talking about. I don't understand context to what you're saying about the free iHacky classes. I've taken the free iHacky classes in Irwindale before. But I don't know what you're trying to say about him. Let's see. Alaska says he's lost brain cells. Hey, that's a plus too, man. That's your fault for doing the stuff you were doing while you were watching my stream. Okay. So, and you will go blind, you know, if you keep doing that too. Let's see what else. Best channel to learn from is HVAC Overtime. That's about right, Laska. HVAC Overtime YouTube channel is my friends and myself, and it's a Friday night uncensored show that's usually unscripted and has no structure whatsoever. And we usually just have a blast, just hanging out. Majority of the time, I'm drinking way too much beer, talking. If you've never seen the Overtime show, trust me, if you check it out, it's going to be a different Chris than what you know on this channel for sure. So even after the Overtime show last week, I think Adam, we got off the stream and he goes, dude, he goes, I think you set a record on cussing on the show. And I was like, really? I didn't even know that. And he's like, yeah. He goes, I think you must have said a certain word like 30 or 40 times. And I'm like, really? I didn't even know I did that. But yeah, it's pretty funny. All right, man. Let's see. John Cruz says that he knew a sheet metal fabricator that was deaf. Yeah, there's so many facets in this trade for people with disabilities. Like, don't let a disability hinder you. There's something in the trade that majority of the time you'll be able to do for sure. So let's see what else we got in here. Yeah, that was pretty funny, huh, Joe? That made me laugh. All right, let me get to my list of things to talk about. What type of door closures do I use when I'm installing them on the doors? I use the Caisson 1094 series. That's my favorite type of door closure to use. They last the longest and they're the most durable in my opinion. So they have a 1094 concealed tab and exposed tab. Depending on the situation, I'll do either or. The exposed tab has the screws on the outside that you can see. Concealed tab's a little bit more difficult. It's a little more fancy, hidden behind the closure. But the Caisson 1094 series door closures are my favorite for sure. Have I had any problems with the Infocon gasmate leak detector when I'm looking for propane leaks? No, not whatsoever. I've heard from a few different people that they said that they've either had problems or they heard manufacturers saying that they weren't the most accurate leak detectors. I haven't had any problems with my Infocon gasmate leak detector at all looking for propane leaks. Nothing at all. And if I have a system that's flat, I'm not going to put propane in it. I'll usually put regular like 134 or 404 and a nitrogen on top of it and use a normal leak detector if I have to. But I have not had any problems finding propane leaks with the Infocon gasmate. No. John commented about my ability to explain things in a way most can understand. Oh, that's an interesting. John had said that in an email or a comment. I can't remember. And, you know, I've heard that comment come through a lot, that people appreciate the way that I explain things. And when it comes to explaining things, I just try to take a common sense approach to things. I like to break things down in the way that I understand them best. I call it dumb logic because I'm not the smartest cookie out there, but when I do figure something out, I try to make it a lot easier for other people to understand too. So I don't know what it is that I do, but I just break things down and try to make it make sense. I use analogies of things that I feel like people kind of already have an understanding of, whether it be, well, like when I'm explaining an expansion valve and I'm explaining why we need a pressure differential across the expansion valve, I'll use a water hose, right? And I'll say, when you have certain water pressure and you put your finger over the pressure, the hose is going to fan out, right? Because your expansion valve is going to meter the refrigerant, and it's going to change the pressure, and it's going to change it into a lot of different droplets of liquid and vapor, right? So kind of like a mist. Well, if you take a water hose and you reduce the water pressure, you're going to notice that the fan gets smaller when you're putting your finger over the end of the hose. And the same thing, when you turn the pressure up, you're going to notice that the water is going to shoot further and the fan's going to get bigger. So I always try to break things down and explain it like that. If I'm explaining why we need a pressure differential to push the refrigerant through the system so that way the thermostatic expansion valve can control the refrigerant flow, expansion valves are dumb, especially thermostatic ones. So I'll use water and the hose analogy to explain that because I feel like that's the way I understand it. So why doesn't someone else understand it that way? So I just try to break things down in a way that people can understand them. So thanks for the nice words there, John. That was really cool. All right. Why did I convert to 448A in my prep table funk video? Why not use R22? Okay, well, first off, R22 is getting really expensive. Okay, I still do use R22, but it's getting stupid expensive. We also have some new laws in California that say we're not allowed to use R404A refrigerant for new installations and retrofit installations. So if we're converting if we're changing a compressor, condensing unit, technically we're supposed to change the refrigerant away from 404. We can still use 22, but that one's just really expensive. So in this situation, it was 22. I was going to convert it to something else. 5 years ago, I would have changed it over to 404, but we're not supposed to do that anymore. So I choose 448A. That is my refrigerant of choice. I can't carry a million different refrigerants on my truck, so I stick with 448A. Works great for me. I've had no problems with it. The cool thing about 448A is it uses R22 expansion valves, but there's an important thing we need to understand. When it comes to these new refrigerants that are high glide refrigerants like 448A, is that the pressure differential across the expansion valve is going to change, okay? And we need to be careful about that, especially if we're doing new AWEF compliant refrigeration equipment that has lower than normal head pressure control, bypass pressures, and different things like that. Even though 448A uses R22 expansion valves, doesn't mean that the existing expansion valve is going to be properly sized. You have to do some research on that, okay? Sporlan has lots of information on it. I don't have it handy with me right now, but Sporlan has some, if you just Google search Sporlan AWEF, just Google search that term, you'll come up with the Sporlan documents that explain everything on how to properly size expansion valves for the new AWEF compliant refrigeration equipment, okay? So just understand that when we're converting refrigerants, when we're changing over, we still need to verify that expansion valves are sized appropriately and different things like that, okay? So answered that question. Let me knock out some more. Did the condensing unit that I installed in the prep table funk video have a head pressure control valve? No, it did not. That is not a very low ambient area. It just runs moderate temperatures there, 70, 75 degrees. The lowest it's going to get is probably 60, 65 in that area. So no, it didn't need a head pressure control valve. If I have to add one later, I can. Did I verify that the new condensing unit or the new receiver in the prep table funk video was sized appropriately? I guessed on the sizing of that receiver. Just judging by the size of the system and how many evaporator coils in there, I guessed that a 6-pound receiver would be big enough. Now that receiver can hold 6 pounds of refrigerant if it does just by itself, okay? Safely hold 6 pounds of refrigerant. My total charge on that system was about 7 pounds, but you also have to take into account that the condensing unit is going to store a lot of the refrigerant too. So my system now pumps down properly. It has the max charge in it. It's working fine, but I did make an educated guess on that receiver. I did not do volumetric calculations or anything like that. So, all right, cool. That's that. This is a question I get so much. Why don't I call the health department on my restaurants? You know, so many people email me and say, man, I'd have called the health department on that restaurant. You should have called the health department. You have a obligation to call the health department. No, I don't. And that's not something you do. I'm not the health department. The health department, I will tell you this, that the health department needs to visit these restaurants more often. But I will tell you that the health department knows. In the United States, we have a random health inspections. It's not so random. They come through once a month or whatever, and they go to the restaurants or every couple months. They need to do more inspections. They need to do random inspections, but that's not my job to be the health department police. I would lose business if I started ratting on my customers and stuff. No, I'm just there to fix stuff. That's all I'm doing. Let's see what else we got in here. What am I missing? Yeah, exactly. Will Speed says, just drag a trailer full of bottles. I mean, if I had every refrigerant in my truck, yeah, for sure I would need to. So how often do I encounter a TXV with a filter screen? All the time, man. Filters are on almost every TXV I install and I work on. They have a filter screen. So we always check the filter screen before we start adjusting the TXVs. And whenever I install a new TXV, I try to install ones that have filter screens as much as possible. Sometimes you have space limitations where you can't. Let's see what else we got in here. Can the Infocon Stratus pick up gases the Gasmate picks up? No, the Infocon Stratus is for regular refrigerants. The Gasmate leak detector is for hydrocarbon refrigerants. So no, they're not going to pick up the same refrigerants at all. Let's see. All right. You guys got questions or things you want me to cover? Throw it in the chat right now because I've run out of my normal topics to talk about. Again, thank you so much for everybody that's put in the super chats. That's really awesome that you guys did that. Let's see. My dog is barking in the background. I can hear him across the house right now. He wants attention. My wife's in there with him, but he's just barking like crazy. Advanced Refrigeration Podcast is saying that make sure the wheel is 1/8 of an inch near the latch or they will pop open. And he's referring to the door closures, the hydraulic door closures, like the 1094 caissons. Yeah, so it's hard for me to explain this, but when you're installing those caisson door closures, when you close the door, you have the catch on the top, right? That holds the latch in, and then it comes in and it grabs and then pulls the door shut like that. On the bottom of the catch, when you close that door and that door closure needs to be pushed all the way down, it needs to slightly touch the catch, like a 1/16 of an inch, just barely touch, and then it'll catch. Because sometimes if the catch on the top is too high, when you pull the door closure out, it'll pop open and then the door won't shut anymore. And I know for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, that's not going to make any sense. But for those that have worked on door closures, that's like the most common thing. People just don't know how to adjust the catch on the top. And oftentimes if the catch isn't touching the part of the door closure that grabs it, you can just grab it and bend it down ever so slightly to where it just barely touches when it's closing. There isn't an art to installing those door closures, but once you figure it out, they're super easy. Let's see. All right. Unsweat to check screens. No, I don't unsweat to check screens. I think that's the stupidest thing in the world, John Cruz. And you probably know what I'm talking about. If a screen is sweat in a valve, I'm gonna tell you guys something right now. Call me a hack or not. If I'm installing an expansion valve and I have to do a standard valve, I don't understand why there would be a screen in that valve if you're sweating it in. I think that every valve should have a removable screen that's got a mechanical connection. So if you're doing a sweat in valve, that's a smaller profile. Oftentimes they'll have a screen that you install in the inlet of the valve, and then you sweat the valve in. I think that's the dumbest thing in the world. I understand why the manufacturers are sending those, because they want to send out a screen, but most of the time when I'm sweating in a valve that has, I'm pulling the screen out before I sweat it in, because again, I may be completely wrong, but here's my logic. If that screen plugs up, you have to unsweat that to check the screen. I'm not unsweating it to check a screen. I'm going to change the whole valve. So when the screen plugs up on one of those that doesn't have a removable screen, I'm not going to, that's just dumb. You're just causing nuisance overheat to that valve. The valve is trash. So when I install those, I don't put a screen in them. I take those out. And again, I may be completely wrong about that, but I just don't understand the logic of having a screen that is sweat in the valve. It just seems silly to me. So call me a hack. See what else. Heated diode or infrared leak detector. I think I use the infrared. I don't know which one I use, man. I use the DR82 and the Infocon Stratus. I don't know which ones those are. Are they heated diode or infrared? They work. That's all I know. So I use before that I used the DTEC Select. It worked great. And then now I have the Infocon Stratus in my van, and I have the Fieldpiece DR82, and they're both great, but I don't know which one's which. Let's see. Already answered that one. Cool. Kevin Schmidt says he had a walk-in service call on a walk-in cooler today, got on the roof and found a residential condenser powering it. I've seen that before, especially on the older equipment. It was possible it would work. Typically, they have a residential, like 10-SEER residential air conditioner out there, right? Or split system, just the condensing unit. And then they'll add a receiver and a liquid line solenoid valve. I mean, it's hacky, but I mean, it works, you know, but as you get into the higher efficiency and the higher SEER, that's when it's going to start getting shady. So, looking for some new work boots. Got any recommendations? You normally wear Rocky pull-ons. Chris Young, I've been doing, I talked about it on the Overtime channel. I've been doing a review on some Brunt work boots, because Brunt sent me some work boots and I've been wearing them for almost a month now. I'll have a video coming out on those soon, but they're pretty nice. And then, for the longest time though, I've worn Timberland Pro Boondocks. That's what I wear with the safety toe on them. What do they call it? A composite toe, slip resistant, electrical resistant. That's my boots for years have been the Timberland Pro Boondocks. I've always worn those, and now they have a black model too, so they're not brown anymore. They're all black from the get-go. But I've been doing the review and using the Brunt work boots for about a month now. I've got good and bad things to say about them. So we'll see when that comes out. Let's see. What am I missing here? I already answered that one. What is my setup for charging R290? Smart probes and a hose with 2 ball valves on each end, and scale. And you'd have to watch one of my videos. If you go to any of my R290 videos, you'll see them where it shows my little setup. Let's see what else we got going on in here. It was 410A, no receiver. Yeah, I don't know how 410A with no receiver would work on a walk-in cooler. That sounds like a mess, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, I am going to wrap this up because I can smell dinner in the other room. I'm hungry and my throat hurts from talking so much. So I got to finish this. I'm going to cue up the outro music, go hang out with my dog for a little bit and try to get some sleep tonight. Hopefully the dude sleeps through the night. That would be really nice. I don't think it's very possible that that's going to happen. But yeah, I'm going to cue up the outro music right now. So I get a lot of questions. Why do I use the stupid 80s music? Because I like 80s music. There was something about being a kid, you know, Miami Vice. I didn't watch the first run of Miami Vice because I was born in 83. So I was too young to watch the first run, but I watched reruns and I just loved the music. Same thing with all the different TV shows. You know, I just like the music. So when I found this intro, and this, I don't remember what this is called. I don't know. Is it Racing Hearts? No. Yeah, it's Racing Hearts by Maddie McGuire or something like that. But I don't know. I just like it. I like the 80s kind of syntho pop or whatever that is music. I've always kind of liked that. It's kind of cool. So yeah, 80s music is fun. It's just, I don't know. Something about it makes me happy. I listen to everything. I listen to country music. Country is my jam. But there's something about relaxing to 80s music. Hall & Oates, Yacht Rock. Like I'm a dad for sure, man. I could listen to Yacht Rock all day long. Hall & Oates, Steely Dan. Those are my jams too. Like I'm so eclectic on my music choices for sure. My wife hates it because I'm like, listen to this one. This is so cool. And like, I like to read about the history of the songs and stuff and like what mindset they were in. What was the other one that I was reading a couple months back? I never realized, if you guys didn't know this, hold on just a second. Let me look this up. This song is really interesting story. What is the song? Hold on. I'll think of the song before I say it. Oh, okay. So you guys ever hear the song Sarah by Stevie Nicks? She sings this song. It's kind of like a ballad. That one has some like, I love the history to these different things, right? So there's a couple different trains of thought on that song, but Don Henley swears up and down that that song was written about Stevie Nicks and Don Henley's unborn baby, that she had an abortion and got rid of the baby. And then she wrote the song Sarah about the baby. Now, Stevie Nicks says she wrote it about her friend, but I mean, when you read the Don Henley story and you hear about it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Like, I love the stuff behind that. So like, I love reading about music and just, yeah, it's so cool, man. But yeah, that song, man, Sarah, for sure, man. That's a great song. Stevie Nicks is amazing. And then you hear the stories about her drug use and stuff. Oh my gosh, man. I mean, it's pretty much confirmed, that crazy story about her roadie having to, if you know, you know, right? Because she had a massive cocaine addiction in her nose. Like, she couldn't snort it up her nose anymore. And there's a lot of weird rumors that her roadie, yeah. And that stuff's pretty much confirmed when you read about that, man. It's just nuts, man. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I never leave, man. I'm always hanging in here. But yeah, Hall & Oates for sure. Yeah, that's right. Hall & Oates, they do use that for, it's a hockey team or something like that, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. I do remember that. They have an agreement with them, but yeah, I love that. Yep. I love music and movies, and that's my jam, man. I love to sit down and watch movies, and it's cool too because I'm kind of sharing that with my daughter. She messaged me because we don't have like normal TV, so she messaged me this week and she's like, "Dad, can I rent Ghostbusters, like the original?" And I was like, "Yeah, like you're doing me proud by renting that movie. Go ahead, you know." And then like a couple hours later, she's all, "Dad, can I rent Ghostbusters too?" And I was like, "Yeah, go for it." Like, I'm so proud that she wants to watch those movies. So heck yeah, you can rent those, you know. It's just awesome. And it's cool that, you know, remember when we were kids, if you guys are my age, I'm 38, I would have to go to the video store, you know, and like check out a movie and you'd have it for the weekend or whatever. Our kids can watch a movie instantly. You think of a movie and it's just Google it and boom, pops it up. You can rent it on YouTube, watch it on your TV. Yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah, Junkman said in her bung. That's right, man. Yeah, that is nuts, man. It is definitely nuts. Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Yes, exactly. That is so true. Terry Raffenzer, whatever, how you say your name. He said only Stevie Nicks could make her ex play music about how he cheated on her. Yeah, but everybody in that band cheated on everybody. Everybody slept with everybody in that band. But seriously, yeah, definitely, man. It's so cool to hear those stories, and it's awesome. All right, well, I'm gonna cue this up for real, and I'm gonna get out of here. So if I missed any of your guys' questions, feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com, and I'm going to cue up the outro music, and we will catch you on the next one, okay?